Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again for another Film Fanatic show. It is about 11:14 on a Thursday, spring day here in 2023. It's a pretty nice day today. It's actually a little bit warmer, kind of almost somewhat starting to feel a little bit more seasonal. So yeah, I want to thank everybody for their support with this channel. I've been getting some new subscribers and more folks who have been really commenting a lot on the videos, and that is super awesome. I'm a big fan of interacting with other folks on this channel. At the end of the day, it's all about the movies, and my deep love and passion for these movies. I always look at it in twofold to a degree. On one part of my brain, on one side of my brain, it's just for me pure escapism, and it's super fun. I love, my two favorite things to usually do in my free time is to, go see live music and also go to the movies. And it's interesting because last week, I've been going to the movies a lot lately, which has been great. I've gone to see about three movies in the last couple of weeks. I saw two new movies last week. The new Nicolas Cage Renfield movie, which was great, super fun, and also the new Evil Dead Rise movie. And I did reviews of both of those movies, and I really thought they were both pretty fantastic, super fun, super gory, and super entertaining. And then before that, I saw the John Wick Chapter 4 movie, which is the final movie in the John Wick franchise, which is just amazing. That movie is just uh, definitely the best thing I've seen this year in 2023. Easily the best movie. I think it's the best in the franchise. It's you know, it's an epic movie. I think by by some folks out there, I think people are already kind of saying it that they think it's easily one of the best action movies ever, and I think it might go down in history as one of the best. For me, it's probably better than it's the best in the franchise. I love the first one. The first John Wick is just incredible, and I almost like this one a little bit more just because of the scale and the scope of it. It's got this epic feel, and as good as the first one is, it's just tremendous. So it's been really fun being able to going to see more movies. There's still some coming up and coming out here as we're getting into the spring and summer season. Typically, there's a lot of big budget comic book movies that come out, as we all know. But I've been suffering from pretty bad fatigue around going to see comic book movies or superhero based films. I'll probably still see one or two of them when they come out, but I'm overall just kind of burnt out. So those are coming out. There's a few other movies that are out and coming out that I'll probably see, but it's funny because I go to see a lot of local live music. Whenever I get a chance, I go to as many local live events as I can for local music. I'm not too picky about things too. I overall just love to go to see live music, just the thrill of it, and it's always inspiring to me. The one thing that's funny about me though, if I typically, I mean, I'll pretty much go see anything, and if definitely if something is piques my interest. There was a show I went to last week where I saw Random Ideas, and they're a three sister punk band from South China, Maine, and I've known those ladies for a few years, and a couple different bands that I was in at the time. We played a few shows with them, so I had played shows with them too over the years. We played at a festival that I used to do, the Feedback Festival. That I used to run this music festival for a few years, and I did it for 3 years, and they were on the I think it was the last one we did, which was a few years back, and they were one of the bands that played. I played there when I used to play with a blues rock artist named Vicky Andres. I used to play with her, and we played at the festival, and we also did a Quantum set, and then Random Ideas played. And then a year or two before that, when I was playing with Vicky Andres, we had played a show down in South Portland, and they were also on the same bill. And then I think we also did a show at Myrtle Street Tavern together. And then also last summer, I played at this fundraiser with my buddy Emmett Layler, and we shared the bill with them also. So I've been following them for a long time, and I saw them last, I think it was last week or the week before, and that was great. That was super fun. The only thing I try, if I find or hear about a local band or something going on that I want to check out, typically it's funny because if they don't have a drummer, or if they don't have drums in the music, I'll sometimes pass on it, just a bias. But typically I'll go see anything. But my other love is going to the movies, and I've talked a lot about that. And it's funny because I almost feel now that might almost be my number one thing to do. Last week, a funny example of that, I was going to go see a band that I had heard about. I've actually seen them play, but it's been years and years, and they're a really good blues rock band. And they were playing a gig, and I hadn't seen them in years and years. And I know one of the guys in the band, and he's a super cool guy, great musician. And I was gonna go see them. I had a gig during the day, and then I was gonna go. They were playing at night, and I was gonna go to that after. And literally, it was on my way, and I was gonna go to that and check them out. But then I realized the night before that Thursday, this was on a Friday, the night before Thursday, that the new Evil Dead Rise was coming out. And I was super pumped to see that movie. I'm a huge fan of the franchise. And I saw it was opening weekend, so I saw that night that it was actually playing at Flagship. So I ended up changing my plans and I ended up going to see the movie Evil Dead Rise instead. So I don't know, it's funny. Maybe that's my true the thing I love the most, and it was great. It was awesome. So today's show is on a movie. I never feel like, as much as I love science fiction and horror. Obviously, I have a couple of hundred of horror movie videos on this channel by now. I'm getting close to almost 300 videos or so. Most of the time when I'm doing this channel too, the videos that I post, I try to, for the most part, only post videos. It's not a rule that I have, but I don't know, it just seems like it makes more sense, and it might give me a little bit more thing of a source of inspiration because I own the movie and I've seen it multiple times, and I've watched a lot of the special features, and so I might be a little bit more knowledgeable about the film that way. But for the most part, when I do these videos, I try to only stick to movies that I actually own. The majority of these videos are just from my collection. Again, I do try to mix things up. I have my interview segments that I've done and I'm looking forward to doing more of those at some point. And then I have the specialty shows where I did like a show just about Stanley Kubrick, my favorite director of all time, and then I did a show where I talked about just my band Quantum, and then also I did a black metal show. I did a show on my favorite death metal, extreme metal band of all time, Morbid Angel, who I just saw about just shy of a week ago, which was just amazing. So I try to mix things up. And then also the other thing I like to do is to cover movies that I see in the theater, and that's pretty sporadic for the most part, but it's been good lately. So I always do reviews for that. New movies that I see, whether it's through rental, I do coverage of that. But most of these videos are still made up of films that I own. So, and I don't know, I just feel like it's a thing of, these are movies that I've kind of lived with, and that I live with, and that I watch regularly, and I might have a little bit more insight on certain films because of that factor. So that's one thing. One of the things I don't feel like I do enough yet on this channel, and I'll eventually get to them all. Science fiction and horror are my two favorite styles. Horror exploitation being the best for me, and the exploitation world in general is my passion. So, but I was thinking about it the other day. I don't feel like, as much as I love science fiction, I don't put enough science fiction videos on here. So I'll eventually get to more and more science fiction. I do have quite a few overall, but not as many. But this is a show on a science fiction classic, and I definitely consider this to be part of the exploitation world also. Just because it's really, you know, it's big budget, but then it's not, and the practical effects are just mind-boggling. And in comparison to bigger Hollywood movies, it's pretty minuscule. And plus, the whole storyline and the kind of the almost weird, bizarre kind of framework that this movie has, I feel like it does fit in that world for the most part pretty appropriately, the exploitation world. And that is Logan's Run. This is a sci-fi classic. I think one of the greatest sci-fi movies ever. And it's such a bizarre movie also. But I love this movie. I just love this movie. I bought this a couple of years ago on Blu-ray, and this is an amazing movie on Blu-ray. It's just incredible. It came out in 1976, which is unbelievable. It was directed by Michael Anderson, and I think that this is definitely one of the quintessential sci-fi movies, and I definitely consider this to be in the realm of the exploitation world. It stars Michael York, the infamous Michael York, just amazing, highly prolific actor at the time in the 70s and 80s. He's even still around. There's a lot of great special features on here, and just tremendous. Jenny Agutter is also in this. Richard Jordan, he's a really great character actor. Peter Ustinov, fabulous actor, another really famous actor, definitely of his time. Farrah Fawcett, of course, an American icon. Lara Lindsay, just such a great movie. And this whole story is just so bizarre. Logan's Run is basically it's based. This movie is based on the classic novel by William F. Nolan and George Clayton Johnson. It was published. The book came out in 1967, and the novel basically depicts a dystopian future society in which both population and the consumption of resources are maintained in equilibrium by requiring the death of everyone reaching the age of 21. The story follows the actions of Logan, a Sandman charged with enforcing the rule, as he tracks down and kills the citizens who run from society's lethal demand, only to end up running up to himself. And the whole premise, there's this whole like ceremonial, ritualistic aspect when this population, when of course when they, I think this movie is so incredible as far as like the dystopian world that it creates, but particularly around the ritualistic aspect of when the citizens of this society, when they turn 21, and there's like basically this ritual sacrifice. It's just visually, it's so amazing, and it's such a dramatic uh, presentation. The aesthetics are just amazing, and it's really bonkers crazy. It's really bizarre. The effects are just amazing, and it's it has it dives pretty deep into you know authoritarian regimes and consumerism, but then population control, fascism, essentially human sacrifice. It's amazing, and it's essentially that it always focuses also on that point of somebody becoming an individual, and suddenly they're waking up and they're at a state of awareness or a state of becoming. So they they start questioning everything when everyone else around them in their society and in their community, particularly in this film where there's assimilation and everybody is is more or less eating the same food, having the same beliefs, the same tastes, and everybody is in line and in step with what that societal norm is at that time. And then there's that figure that which has been a theme in a lot of sci-fi stories where there's a to a degree a savior figure or someone who becomes awakened and starts questioning authority and starts realizing kind of the madness of the environment they're living in. So they take it upon themselves to break free of that and to a degree almost lead a revolution. And it's always a theme that's been in many science fiction stories. And I think that this is, like I said, a classic in the field of science fiction. And it's, again, it's got this real campy kind of cheeseball element to it, but it's so great. It's so great. And the practical effects in this film are just mind boggling. And it's super psychedelic. It's got this really psychedelic element, which I always forget about. And this came out in '76. And it has this, I feel like it has a very, like 60s vibe to it. With the whole visual aesthetic that this film kind of immerses itself in and that it creates. It's just so tremendous, and the action is just amazing. And this is one of my favorite sci-fi movies of all time. I bought this a couple of years ago, and I've seen it a few times since then. I got to watch this again. It's been a while. It's been a hot minute. I love Michael York. He's always been a favorite of mine. Such a great, such a great presence on screen. He's great as a leading man in this film. Michael York is he got his start in television, British television. He was a stage actor. Um, Logan's Run in 1976, The Three Musketeers in '73, Cabaret. He was also in the musical, which I always forget. He was also in not recent anymore, but fairly recent compared to the '70s. Austin Powers. He was in Austin Powers International. Uh, he was also in The Spy Who Shagged Me, which I forgot. Romeo and Juliet in '68, which came out before. Just a great actor. I mean, and he had a lot of acting attributes. He's a trained theater actor, but kick-ass movie. Can't say enough good things about it. It's just so fun and one of the greatest, by far. And it was directed, like I said a couple of minutes ago. It's directed by Michael Anderson, and he, also had a similar background to Michael York. He also did various films, and he worked in the theater for a while. Movies that he directed: Logan's Run, of course, '76; Orca, 1977, which is kind of like I remember it being basically like a Jaws kind of ripoff, only it's centered around a whale. Around the World in 80 Days, 1956. Wow. He also directed 1984. Huh. Wow. Operation Crossbow, The Shoes of the Fisherman, The Wreck of Mary DeClare. Interesting. I didn't realize that he directed 1984. And of course, 1984 is another really famous sci-fi movie, but and classic story. But I highly recommend checking this movie out if you've never seen it. It's a pretty popular movie for the most part, but It's just great, and I just think it's super entertaining. The effects are pretty dazzling. The action is great. It's pretty bonkers. It's pretty weird. It's pretty low budget. It's super cheesy, but just amazing. And I think it's one of the greatest sci-fi movies ever. One of the greatest sci-fi movies to be kind of included or encapsulated in the world of exploitation. 1976. You can't go wrong. So this is Jason Dean. So thanks again for supporting this channel. Keep the comments coming, and we will see you next time. Peace.